You can really spend a lot of money just to go sleep in the woods. It sounds very basic until you start thinking about what gear that you will need and what is best. Backpackers obsess over what gear they're going to bring along and what gear they're really going to be depending on when they're away from society and all of those conveniences that they're used to. After you've gone through the painful process of whittling down your gear list to only the things that you absolutely need to bring along, you're going to have to figure out what you need to buy. You know, it's usually true that you get what you pay for. However, most backpackers can't afford to buy top-of-the-line gear across the board. So I'm going to share with you what items you should invest a lot of money in and what items you can probably buy on the cheap. If you are new to backpacking and you are buying gear for the first time, I encourage you to buy mostly cheap gear. The first reason for this is you may go out backpacking and hiking and camping and decide it's not for you. This way your investment in that risk is smaller. The second reason is after you do go out backpacking and you are out on the trail and you are using gear, you're going to find out what your preferences for the different gear items are, and you're going to know what you want from that practical use and not from just listening to boneheads on YouTube. Awkward. Replacing cheap gear is much easier than an expensive gear buying mistake. This video is geared, that's a pun, more towards the backpacker that's been out on a few trips, knows that they enjoy it, and is looking to upgrade some of their gear. Now, these are just my opinions. Hike your own hike, do whatever makes you happy. You know, every person, every hike, every trail is different. So this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. I do have a complete list of what I use when I go backpacking in the video description. Let's start out with what's referred to as the big three. That's your backpack, your shelter, and your sleep system. New backpackers often go buy their backpack first, when actually you should buy your backpack last. The reason for this is you should buy all of the rest of the gear and clothing that you're going to be carrying so you know what size of backpack to buy. Now, most backpackers start with a big backpack, and as they figure it out and as they whittle down their gear and figure out that they don't have to carry so much, they get smaller and smaller backpacks. I highly encourage that you don't go out and just buy the cheapest backpack you can find on Amazon. The reason for this is the most important thing about a backpack is that it is sized properly and that it is comfortable. Backpacks are actually sized by a person's torso length, which is different than your height. So one 6-foot guy may have a different torso length and need a different size backpack than another 6-foot guy. So what you need to do is go to an outdoor store where they sell backpacks and they have an experienced employee who can measure your torso and you can try on some backpacks. Most new backpackers, when buying that first backpack, look at a backpack and see all the features like all of the zippers, all of the pockets as a great thing because it'll help them stay more organized and they can get their gear out quickly. The truth is, the only thing that those zippers and all those pockets are adding is weight. You don't want that extra weight, so try to find a backpack without all the extra pockets and zippers. Another thing that'll help you reduce your pack weight is if you're buying a base level backpack, most often the material of that backpack may soak in water. It may be water resistant, but it's still going to soak in some water. And water is very heavy. So you'll want to buy a pack cover to keep that water off of your backpack, not only to keep your gear dry, but to keep your backpack lighter. I personally have a more premium backpack. It's from Pilgrim UL. And backpacks like mine, they don't soak in water and get heavier. And they're also seam sealed, so they're ultra lightweight and dry. With a tent, I recommend that you kind of go in that mid $200 to $300 range. You probably don't need a $650 ultralight Dyneema tent, but you also don't want to go with that super cheap Chinese tent on Amazon that won't keep you dry. It'll probably break quickly and it'll probably be heavy. Sil nylon and sil poly are kind of the fabrics that are good quality fabrics that aren't super expensive. When purchasing a tent, make sure that the seams are sealed in order to stay dry. Also remember, when you are buying a tent, there's a single layer tent and a double layer tent. The single layer tent is lighter, however, it is not ventilated as well, so you may have some wetness inside from condensation, while the double layer tent has a bug net and is better ventilated. The tent I use is the Duplex. It's a Dyneema tent from Zpacks, and it's super expensive. I'd encourage you to buy something that is a little bit more affordable. And what is very popular right now is the Durston X Mid 1. It can be made from a sil poly material, which is a lot more affordable and is very popular amongst hikers right now. For your sleep system, I encourage you to spend a little bit more money. The reason for that is if you don't get good sleep while you're out on your trip, that trip is going to be ruined and you may not enjoy backpacking. Your sleep system consists of a good sleeping pad, a sleeping bag, and a pillow. First off, you're going to have to decide if you want a sleeping bag or a sleeping quilt. A quilt is very similar to a sleeping bag. However, they remove the piece of material that lays underneath your body and your head when you're laying down. And the reason for that is when you lay on top of that sleeping bag, that area gets compressed. And that compression means that there is very little insulation in that portion of the sleeping bag. So removing that part from a sleeping bag and making a quilt makes that quilt a little bit lighter. It makes it compress down a little bit better, which makes it easier to carry in your backpack. Most experienced backpackers use quilts, however, they can be very expensive. Now you can get those down quilts a little bit cheaper if you buy it with a lower grade of down fill. There's nothing wrong with it. It just takes more feathers to fill it up so it doesn't compress down as much. At the very least, if you're going to go out and you're going to buy an inexpensive sleeping bag, you need to know that there are 2 ratings. Most of them go with a survival rating. So a survival rating, it may say that it's rated for 30 degrees. However, that means that if it gets down to 30 degrees, you won't die. You'll survive. But you know what? You're going to be miserable. You're going to be cold because it isn't comfort rated to 30 degrees. So you want to look for that comfort rating. And even if these inexpensive ones have a comfort rating on them, they're probably not right. So if you want to get down to 20 degrees, you need to buy, if you're buying a cheap sleeping bag, you need to buy one that's probably rated for 10 degrees or 0 degrees. That way when it's 20, 25 degrees, you'll stay warm. But instead of dealing with all that nonsense, what I recommend to you is that you spend a little bit more if you got the money and you buy a down quilt. Where I'd recommend that you buy the lower priced down quilts is a website called Hammock Gear. It's not just for hammocks, but they sell something called the Burrows that has a 850 fill power down instead of 950 fill power down. If you don't get all the features, it's a great quilt and it'll keep you warm. So if you buy a 20 degree one, it'll keep you warm down to 20 degrees. And when it's on sale, it'll be priced right around $200. On sleeping pads, I would encourage you to buy an inflatable pad, which is thicker and much more comfortable than a foam pad. Just like your sleeping bag, sleeping pads are temperature rated and need to be insulated most of the time. There are lower priced sleeping pads that will work. You just want to make sure that they're insulated and keep track of how much they weigh. I personally use the Nemo Tensor sleeping pad. This thing is light. You can see how small it is. However, it does cost a little bit more money. Don't overlook the pillow. Pillows are super important not only when you're trying to get good sleep at home, but also at camp. And pillows typically don't cost a whole lot of money. When you're looking at a pillow, I would encourage you to probably check out an inflatable pillow. And when you're looking at it, look at the weight, the dimensions, and the material that it's made out of. I prefer the Eros Premium pillow from Sea to Summit. And the reason why I like it is super thick, it is super comfortable, and it doesn't make a lot of crinkling when you're trying to sleep on it. My preferred shelter and sleep system is a hammock. Now, camping hammocks are significantly different than the inexpensive hammock that you would relax or nap in at a park or at home. Companies like Warbonnet Outdoors, Superior Gear, and Hammock Gear all offer kits where it's a complete package where you can get a hammock, a tarp, quilts, everything you need all in one package, which makes it a little bit easier and reduces the price a little bit. I personally sleep in a Warbonnet Outdoors Ridgerunner bridge hammock, and my tarp is the Warbonnet Thunderfly. Now that we've made it through the big three, let's quickly move through some of the other essential gear items that you'll need to bring along on your hike. The first is a water filter. I and most backpackers use the Sawyer Squeeze. Now this can be found for about $45, and you want to make sure that you get the Sawyer Squeeze and not the Sawyer Mini because the flow rate to squeeze the water through it is much faster. I would encourage you to upgrade your water bag for filtering from the cheap Sawyer bag that comes with your filter to the Canuck 2-liter water bag here that you can see here has a wider opening for scooping up water. Trekking poles. I've never had super expensive trekking poles. And the reason for that is I put these through a lot of abuse. Whether they're getting squished down between rocks or I fall on them. I don't want to be hiking and have to worry about breaking a $250 hiking pole. So what you have to remember when you're looking at cheaper hiking poles is that aluminum weigh more than carbon fiber. Aluminum are also usually cheaper. What I would recommend to you and what I use is a carbon fiber trekking pole from a company called Cascade Mountain Tech. They also sell the aluminum ones, but upgrade to the carbon fiber for maybe $10 more and they'll be a little bit lighter. So you can find these carbon fiber trekking poles on Amazon for about $52. I did find these exact same ones at Costco for $35. The other thing that I would recommend is that your grips, that you go with a cork grip instead of a foam grip. The cork grips don't hold as much of your sweat and you're less likely to get blisters. Size does matter when it comes to cook pots. This is a 550 milliliter pot. You need to determine, are you going to be cooking just for yourself, or are you going to be cooking for you and your partner? Are you going to be cooking food that needs to be mixed in a pot? Or are you like me where all you need to do is boil, 3/4 of a cup of water and rehydrate your meal? So another thing you need to think about is the material of your pot. There is aluminum pots available, which are cheaper. However, titanium, which is what this is lighter. And another benefit of titanium is when you're done cooking, it cools down quicker so you can pack it away. So this is a Totes titanium 550 milliliter pot. It can be found for about $30 on Amazon, and it is plenty big enough for me to boil that water. A nice part about it too is inside of it, I have my BRS stove. This stove works just like the more expensive stoves. However, it only costs about 15 bucks on Amazon. It's nice and small, so it can nestle down in my pot along with a small lighter and my fuel tank. So you can have your $15 stove and your $25 pot, and for under 40 bucks, you have a cook system that nestles down small in the pot and you can fit in a small pocket on your backpack. A spoon or a spork, the only recommendation I have is to buy something cheap. Don't just steal something out of the drawer at home. You probably want to get something that's either plastic, aluminum, or titanium, and you want a long-handled one if you're going to be eating out of that envelope the freeze-dried meal. This is a titanium long-handled spork, which is what I use when I am out on trail. The headlamp that I prefer is the Nitecore NU25. You can see that it's super little, it's super lightweight. It has different brightness levels. It has the red lamp on there. And it's also rechargeable. The reason why I like this is not only because of the features, but being rechargeable means you bring a USB cable along and you can plug it into a power bank while you're at camp, and if your batteries do die, you can charge it back up. That being said, this has a feature where if you press both of the buttons here, you can't accidentally turn it on inside of your backpack and you save that battery life. So this thing, it'll last for 2 or 3 nights out on trail. If you need it for longer, you plug it in. When you are looking at headlamps, if you are going for a cheaper option, this thing is about $40 on Amazon. But if you want to go for something cheaper, you want to look at how bright it is, how many lumens, and you want to see how long the batteries last at those different brightness levels. So obviously the battery's going to last a lot longer at a low level than it is at a bright level. When it comes to rain gear, Frog Togs is a cheap rain gear that is acceptable. The only down part about Frog Togs is sometimes they aren't quite as durable and sometimes they aren't very well ventilated. And the reason why you want a well ventilated raincoat is that you are going to start sweating inside of that thing. So if you're going to be upgrading and getting something a little bit nicer, you want to look for a rain jacket that has pit zips. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's got a zipper on both armpits. You can unzip that, maybe unzip your coat a little bit, and it breathes a little bit better and you won't sweat as much. When you sweat, there's nothing worse. I mean, what's worse? Being wet from the rain or being wet from your sweat? It's the same thing. Now, when it comes to rain pants, the only time that I wear rain pants is when it's cold and rainy out, or even when it's just cold out. Because if it's warm out and raining out, my legs usually in shorts, I don't mind getting wet. Rain pants are more about staying warm than they are about staying dry. When it comes to storage bags and food bags, there are a lot of acceptable cheap options that you can get from either Walmart or Amazon or any store. I typically go a little bit nicer. Sea to Summit has some nice bags in, and what I really like are their compression dry bags. They're ultra lightweight and they have compression straps on them. So I stuff all of my down, my sleeping bag, my coat, all of my clothing inside of that. I compress it down and I can fit it down at the bottom of my backpack without wasting a lot of space inside of my backpack. Now, if you want a little style and you want to bling it up a little bit, I encourage you to check out Hilltop Packs. Hilltop Packs has some great food bags and storage bags that have some creative and funny designs on it, or you can get them custom printed. If you have a photo that you want on your food bag or a logo, they'll put it on there and you will be in style. If you want something that is lighter and cheaper than a chair, I encourage you to check out a foam sit pad, which are soft, they are dry, and you can get them for only about 10 bucks. Pre-packaged freeze-dried meals aren't as good as fresh food, but they probably are the best option when you are out on multi-day backpacking trips. They are lightweight, they do have a lot of calories, and they don't taste terrible. Now you can try to get fancy and get out a dehydrator and make your own food, but if you're anything like me, it tastes terrible, and the freeze-dried meals from companies like Peak Refuel and Mountain House taste much better. Another thing that I like about these prepackaged freeze-dried meals is all you have to do is boil, a cup of water and pour it into the envelope. That means that the only thing that you're going to have to do for dishes is washing your spoon or your spork. When I'm backpacking, I hardly ever have to use a big knife like this one. In order to stay lighter and a little bit more compact, I actually carry this little blade. It's basically a razor blade with a cover here that I purchased for like $2. But the thing is no matter what, you most likely don't need that bigger knife. You can get a little one like this, but just keep it small, keep it light, keep it simple. If you're going to go camping for more than a couple days, you're probably going to need a power bank to recharge your phone, your headlamp, any other electronics that you think that you need along on your backpacking trip. And the truth is, any power bank will work. What you need to determine is how big of a power bank, how many times are you going to have to recharge your phone, your headlamp, how much power do you need, how big of a power bank do you need. If I'm going out for a week, I need this one that's like 26,000 milliamps because I'm charging my phone and my headlamp and my Garmin and all sorts of things for multiple days. If I'm going out just for a quick overnighter and I need to charge my phone the second day, this little 500 milliamp power bank will work out just fine. And this thing weighs probably a tenth of what this weighs. Now, I've been using power banks from a company called Anker. However, I'm starting to use power banks from a Nitecore, which is the same company that makes my headlamp, because these are carbon fiber and much lighter. So that is the end of my list. Are there any items that I didn't talk about that you want me to talk about? If so, leave a comment down in the comments and I will respond to that. Also, I do gear loadout videos frequently. I'll put a link to that last video that I did where I unpacked my backpack and it showed exactly what gear I used. And of course, in the video description is all of the gear that I use. Hey, don't let having the right gear be a barrier to getting out and going backpacking. Just go out with what you have and make it work. And when you can afford it, buy that better gear. Hey, thanks for coming along. Do me a favor, hit subscribe, punch the bell notification. And when I see you out on trail, if you want to, we can talk gear.